The deciding factor was the smell of cigarette smoke. I quit smoking at the age of 11. I had smoked 10 packs of my mother's cigarettes and was not feeling very well. My brother laughed at me, saying that I was doing everything wrong. Later that day, I spoke with my favorite uncle, a sailor and a smoker. "If you smoke, Tosh, you'll never have money." I wish I had never started. He always called me Tosh, which I think was a pet name left over from his days in the Navy. I loved my uncle, and a short conversation with him made me wonder why I should smoke at all. The reason was obvious. I wanted to be like the big boys, like my brother. I wanted to be accepted as one of their own. It didn't take long to realize that they weren't really going to be impressed. They won't accept me because I'm too young. Moreover, I realized that I did not like the people I was trying to impress at all. So that's it, no more cigarettes. My resolve was slightly shaken when I started chasing girls. I wanted to impress them with how macho I was. Walking around the streets with a cigarette in my mouth seemed so cool. I hesitated until the coolest girl in school, Rebecca Davis, let me kiss her. Rebecca was smoking and so cool. She was hanging out with guys my brother's age, and she let me kiss her. I was on cloud 9 until I got a taste. Ugh, if that's what smokers taste like, then I don't want any of it. I left Rebecca, who looked very hurt, and continued to live as before, not cool and not smoking. I've always been considered a bit unsociable. Ever since I was bullied on the playground, I tried not to show emotion. "Hit them hard and hit them where it hurts," my uncle said. "But above all, never let anyone see that you've been hurt. This is exactly what they want, and if they don't get it from you, they will move on to someone else." This worked against bullies, but left a side effect that was a little less desirable. I was left with an inability to show emotion. Years passed, and I found myself a nice, non-smoking girlfriend. Her name was Barbara, and we became friends immediately. 18 months later, I proposed to her, and she accepted. It was 23 years ago. A lot of water flowed under the bridge. We have 2 grown children, Henry, who has just graduated from university, and Zoe, who is nearing the end of her first year of study. With Barb, I could be myself. Might have let my guard down a little. When my brother died of lung cancer, he was only 42 years old, and it hit me harder than I expected. For several weeks after his death, whenever I was alone, I would find myself bursting into tears. Barb would always find me and hug me until I stopped crying. Not a day went by that I didn't tell her that I loved her. Her friends asked her what it was like to be married to someone as insensitive as me. She always answered the same thing. "You don't know him? You see a cold, logical guy. I see a warm-hearted person who is ready to do anything for his family. He gets angry like any man, he just doesn't scream and yell like some people do. Frank is silent and seems even calmer. If you don't know him, you'll never guess that he's angry. We have become empty nesters, and I love it. Barb's libido seems to have increased, and we've become more adventurous. Even after all this time, my heart does somersaults when I look at her. I was always proud to be seen with her, but when she started caring more about her appearance, I was doubly excited. That's why I didn't notice right away. I thought that I was just getting excited and wanting her more and more. But the smell in our bedroom that Thursday night got me thinking, and I realized it wasn't that I was flirting more often, but that Barb was pushing me away more often. Barb had never had much of a sense of smell, while mine had always been keen. She didn't notice anything, but I caught everything. There were some smells I loved, like Barb's smell when I lay in bed next to her. I hated other smells. What I hated most was the smell of cigarette smoke. I hated the way it got into my clothes and hair and settled there. It was enough to spend an evening in the company of a smoker, and for several days I could smell the smell on my clothes, so the smell here in my own bedroom made me uneasy. I asked Barb about it, but she didn't feel anything. She said that I was imagining everything. Perhaps I would have believed her if I had not smelled this smell again next Tuesday. I called Barb into the bedroom and asked her about it, but she again denied there was any smell. On Thursday, the room smelled like air freshener. This caused me serious suspicions. I went to the window and smelled the curtains. It was cigarette smoke again. It got serious. Someone was smoking in my bedroom and Barb was trying to hide it. There was only one conclusion. It took me 2 weeks to put the two together, so 2 weeks later there was a confrontation on a Tuesday night. We both sat down to dinner, and Barb was just starting to chew on a delicious piece of chicken when I asked her, "Who is he, Barb?" A sharp breath made her suck the chicken into her throat and violently choke. I thought I'd have to try the Heimlich maneuver. She came to her senses, and I brought her a glass of water. "Who is this who?" she asked, trying to bluff. "The man you allow to smoke in our bedroom. Who is he?" "I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you accusing me of?" "It's very simple, Barb. I'm accusing you of inviting a man into our bedroom and letting him smoke. I know it's true. I can smell it." "Are you crazy?" Also quiet, calm in appearance, and suddenly he became enraged. "You need to get your nose checked. There's no smoking man here." I stopped eating and stood up. Looking down at her, I pointed to my plate. "By the way, this is actually a fantastic chicken." I walked down the hall to our bedroom, picked up a small round object, and returned to the table. I went to the corner of the living room that I was using as an office and returned with my laptop. I sat down and started eating again. "Really excellent, Barb. You should try a little more. What you ate is not enough for a fly. I lost my appetite. Why did you bring all this?" After chewing another portion of chicken, I wiped my mouth with a napkin and picked up the round object. "This, my dear, is a Wi-Fi webcam. See the little antenna on the back? I left it in our bedroom today. I went to my laptop. This, as you know, is my laptop, and I assume you know that it supports Wi-Fi. It can connect to a webcam wirelessly. Today, a program was launched on it that included recording from the camera during any movement. I wonder what she wrote down this afternoon? Perhaps like a man smoking in our bedroom? Perhaps even sitting on our bed? Perhaps my dear wife lies next to him? Let's watch?" Barb reached over and closed the laptop. "No, I don't want to look at it. Don't want to. It's all true. Here, I said it. Are you feeling happy? Happy? Do you think I should be happy to find out that my wife entertained another man in my bedroom and lay there while he smoked in our bed? No, I'm not happy. Now I'll ask you again. Who is he? I can't. I can't tell you. You'll want to hurt him. And if you do, you'll go to jail. I can't stand it. I love you. Barb, I promise I won't touch him." "So who is he?" "You promise? Do you really promise that you won't touch him?" "Barb, I gave you my word. I won't touch him. Have I ever broken a promise?" She stopped for a moment and thought. "No. Didn't violate it. Okay. Everything is fine now. I repeat, who is he?" Her head dropped and she looked at her feet. "His name is Richard Bryant. He is a college student. I see, and you, as the head of student services, were simply doing your job, serving the students. This is inappropriate and beneath your dignity, Frank. Okay, now all the cards are open. What are you going to do? Do you want to get a divorce so you can marry him?" "No, I don't love him. I love you. Don't leave me, Frank. Please, please don't leave me." "And then what? Will you give it up?" "I'm not sure I can. I'd like to say yes, but I won't make promises I can't keep. Can't we just let things take their course? I know it's just a hobby, and I know he'll get tired of me. For God's sake, he's only 20. Soon he will want young girls, and it will all be over." "What if I don't agree?" "Then I'll try to give it up, Frank. I really will. But the craving for it is so strong. When he is with me, I feel so alive. I'm not sure I can do it, Frank. Don't I make you feel alive? It's different with you, Frank. Being with you makes me feel loved. I'm so proud to be with you, but it's not the same. Please, Frank, please tell me you'll try. I really don't want to lose you. Can you try, Frank? Please?" "Don't know. I'll think about it and tell you tomorrow." I got up and started clearing away the dishes. "Are you serious, Frank? Are you really serious? Will you think about it?" "I just said that, didn't I? Now I better start moving my things into the spare room." "No, Frank. I do not want it. I really don't want to. Please don't move out." "I have to, Barb. I know what young people are like. He'll spread the seed all over the place, and I certainly don't want to catch anything. I'll let you know tomorrow." I left Barb crying at the table and spent the rest of the evening moving all my things out of the master bedroom. On the next evening, Barb made beef stroganoff, my favorite dish, especially the way Barb cooked it. And again, she barely touched her dish. She just moved the food around the plate. When I finished eating, she sat and looked at me until curiosity got the better of her. "Well, have you already decided?" "Yes, Barb, decided." "Well, don't keep me in suspense. What have you decided?" "Everything will end. It will all end right here, right now. From now on, you will no longer have anything to do with him. If he shows up in your office, you'll send someone else to deal with him. Is that clear, Barb? It's over. And you will stay with me, Frank. Will everything be the same?" "Maybe, I do not know. This has never happened to me before. But yes, maybe with time, I will get over it." "Thank you, Frank. I'll try. I really will." "You'll do more than just try, Barb. If you want us to stay together, you can make it work. God knows, I love you more than anything in the world, but I won't let you humiliate me. Will you move back to our bedroom?" "Not yet. If I end up in the same bed with you, I won't be able to keep my hands off you. I think we both need to get tested for sexually transmitted diseases first. I'll make an appointment in the morning." "I don't think there's anything to worry about. I'm sure he's clean." "Nevertheless, we'll both get checked. As I already said, I know young people. I was once one of them." "Frank, do you have to be like this?" "I'm just telling it like it is, Barb. And then, when we are both sure that everything is in order, I will think about moving in with you." For the next month, everything went well. Barb seemed to be more like her old self. She did everything she could to lure me back into the bedroom. She changed her clothes when she came home, so that when I arrived, she was wearing short skirts or very tight jeans with a very thin blouse, usually without a bra. In the evening, she sat on the sofa next to me, hugged my hand, pressing it to her soft chest. At the end of the evening, she looked at me and said, "Well, I'm going to bed. Do you want to join me?" I even started to weaken. I was determined to wait out the entire 3-month incubation period for HIV. But after just a month, I wasn't sure I could continue like this. I loved her like there was no tomorrow. I wanted her constantly. I'm not a religious person, but I prayed that she would stay away from him. Then my nose did it to me again. She stood at the sink, draining the vegetables. She was wearing jeans that she must have sunk a lot of money into and a thin white t-shirt. Even from the back, I could see that she was without a bra. At that moment, I lost control of myself. I walked up behind her, put my hands under her arms, and started squeezing her breasts. She put the pan down, raised her hands to cover mine, and pressed herself tightly against me. That looks like my sexy husband," she said. She leaned against me again. When she did this, my nose was buried in her hair. Here it is, this smell, cigarette smoke, still the same cheap brand, if I'm not mistaken. I stepped back. She was slightly taken aback when I pulled away from her. "What? What's happened? I shouldn't do this." "What do you mean you shouldn't do this? You're my fucking husband. If you don't have to do it, then who the hell should?" "Sorry, I lost control for a minute. And well, I've been trying to make you lose control for the last month. I want you to lose control. I want my husband back." "You really want me back? Do you really want it?" She looked into my eyes, searching for something that could tell her what was going on. "Yes, that's what I want. I've been telling you this for the last month." "Are you sure? Are you sure you want me and not your young lover?" "No, of course not. I did what you said. I don't see him anymore. She was good, but not good enough. When she lies, she always takes off her wedding ring, and I've seen her do just that." There was also a tremor in her voice. "I need to think. I'll be gone for a while. Can't this wait until after dinner?" "I'm almost ready to serve it. Just put it on a plate and cover it with a lid. I'll warm it up when I get back." I drove to the lake and sat there watching the windsurfers taking advantage of the evening sun. I sat there until sunset and then drove back home. Barb met me at the door, took my hand, and rested her head on my shoulder. "Have you thought about everything?" I nodded. "I wish you would let me know sometimes what's going on in your head." "No, Barb, I don't think you want to know." I ate alone while Barb watched. After dinner, I went to bed, leaving Barb to watch TV. The next day, I was sitting outside the lawyer's office, waiting for them to return from lunch. The lawyer's office was directly across the street from our local college. I was sitting there in my van, watching students come and go, when I noticed a group of 6 students walking in my direction. More precisely, 5 students and Barbara. They all laughed and joked as they crossed the road and entered the pub on the corner. I must admit, I didn't recognize her right away. She looked like she belonged among them. I sat in the van and watched the door of the pub, not noticing the lawyers and their secretaries returning to work. The sky became overcast, and light rain began to drizzle. I had been there probably 45 minutes when I saw her come out. She was alone and decided to run back to work, so as not to get wet. I crossed the road and entered the bar, seeing them all grouped around a table by the window. I bought myself a pint of good old and sat down at the table next to them. The girls all got up and went to the toilet together. I sat and eavesdropped on the conversation. "Are you serious, Richie?" "Actually, everything you want." "I told you, Boz, anything." "I'll have to start watching tutorial videos to get some new ideas." "And what are you going to do with her?" "Well, that is, she's a little old, isn't she? She can more than support me. Tell you what, Rich, you can give it to me when you're done." "Well, then take it, Jonesy." "So, are you going to leave her?" "Maybe it depends on whether I can't get Stephanie's attention. I'll give you 20 pounds for it." "You can't even spend the night on 20 pounds, Jonisi." "Hey, here's an idea. I can rent it out." They all laughed when the girls returned. "What are we laughing at?" asked one of the girls. "Richie is thinking about renting out his old lady," answered the one called Jonesy. "Don't be so cruel," said the other girl. "I think Babs is wonderful. I wish my mother was like her." "I wish I had tits like hers," said the first girl. "It amazes me what she sees in you, Richie." "Her old man is no longer functioning. They sleep in different rooms." I felt anger and great sadness. How could this asshole, for whom she had risked so much, be so disrespectful to her? I wanted to sink my teeth into his throat. I wanted to castrate him with a beer glass. But it was Barb's promise that held me back. "I won't touch him," I said. How could I be so stupid? Throughout the conversation, Richie watched the rain outside. Now I noticed how he reached into his pocket and took out cigarettes. When he took out his lighter, Jonesy addressed him. "You can't smoke here, mate. It's illegal." "Well, I'm not going to go outside. It's raining. I need a cigarette. And if people don't like it, they can go to hell." I took my beer and moved to the bar. Despite my best efforts, there was moisture in my eyes. I was wiping one when the owner of the establishment approached. "Are you okay, buddy?" "What?" "Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Just cigarette smoke. It always makes my eyes sting." The owner looked around the bar. Richie tried to hide the cigarette in his clenched hand, but the rising smoke gave him away. "So, you all leave." Richie quickly put out his cigarette and showed it to the owner. Okay. Don't panic. Don't get ruffled. Fine." "Keeping your hair down is good, Richie," Jonesy said, looking at the homeowner's bald head. "I didn't tell you to put it away. I told you to get out. Now you have 10 seconds before I release the dogs." He started counting down from 10. "Okay, we're leaving. Never liked that damn pub anyway. In that case, you won't want to come back here. And that's good, because all of you are forbidden from doing so. Now get out of my pub." As they left, Richie gave the pub owner the finger, and one of the girls moaned, "It's all your fault, Richie. Where do we go now?" They reached the door, looked at the rain, and ran back in the direction of the college. "I'm very sorry, sir, but can I refill your pint of beer now?" "No, thanks. I should be the one apologizing. I didn't want you to lose clients like that." "I can do without such clients. They come here with an elderly woman. I think this insolent guy is probably having sex with her. In any case, they all sit on her neck, and when she leaves, they make sure their drinks last until the end of the day. I feel sorry for her. She seems nice." "Cute, huh?" "Well, I'll say this. I wouldn't climb on it to get to you, if you get my point." "So, what makes you feel sorry for her?" "Well, I'm not qualified or anything, but you see life in this job. In my opinion, she is desperately trying to regain her youth. She seems nice and she's married, so some poor soul is going to cry and drown his angst in beer over this. But she comes and sits with these guys, laughing and giggling like she's one of them. You probably heard them talking about her when she left. For them, it's just light meat. It will all end in tears, and only she will suffer. It's not that I don't believe you, but why are you so sure? As I already said, this is my job. You see everything, and I've seen it all before. If she is lucky, when this little runt is done with her, it will be a wake-up call and she will try to mend her relationship with her husband. It's more likely that she'll become so caught up in the feeling of being young again that she'll look for another teenager. Over time, she will go to bars and offer herself to any young man who seems even slightly interesting to her. It's really pathetic. You speak just like an experienced person? He leaned forward until his mouth was close to my ear. Why do you think my wife isn't here? When he pulled away, I saw sadness in his eyes. He seemed like a decent guy, and it hurt him just to talk about it. He looked down at my glass. Now, sir, will you have another one? No, thank you. My lunch break is over. I'd better get back to work. Thank you for the interview. The owner of the establishment certainly gave me something to think about. Will I be able to live with this situation? Is Barb hooked? She's already lied to me, so maybe that's it. Barb sat on my lap that evening. She squirmed on me. Do we really have to wait, Frank? I'm sure everything will be fine with us. If you're really worried, you can always— Don't even think about it, Barb, I interrupted her. I won't take precautions just because he didn't. I pushed her off my lap and stood up. I went to my room and lay down on my bed, thinking. I realized that she would never be frank with me. She needs me. She needs my stability, like a disobedient child needs stable parents. And then I realized that I couldn't be that stable. I can't bear to watch her deteriorate as my friend described in the pub. I have to go to the break. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing for the move. I found a place to live, took some time off, and arranged to borrow the company van. I realized that Barb was using the room that used to be ours for her secret meetings. I decided to leave on Thursday, after a small confrontation with my lovers. I took the van and parked it in the garage. The morning flew by unnoticed, and I only had time to pack my things and make preparations. The coffee pot sat on the gas stove, waiting. A little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Barbara's car pulled up to the house. I watched as they approached the front door. She said he was 20. He looked more like 16. I opened the front door. Barbara's mouth dropped open. I looked at little Richard. By the way he approached the door, I realized that he had shit himself. Barbary almost had to drag him through the door. What are you doing here, Frank? I could ask you the same thing. I thought it was all over. At least she had the nobility to blush at this. Sorry, Frank, I actually tried, but I just couldn't resist. In the end, I had to talk to him, and then you guess. I'm sorry, Frank. I really am. But we can get through this. I know we can. Go back to work. We can talk about this in the evening. I want to talk to him. With your lover, that is. Frank, do you really think this is smart? Well, I mean, it will only confuse you. Barb, if a man is going to come into my house, smoke in my bedroom, have sex with my wife, then the least he can do is sit down and talk to me. Does this mean what I think it means, Frank? Do you really mind? Nobody said anything about what I don't mind, but you know that I don't want to see you unhappy, so I'll have to put up with it. I just wanted to meet him. And you actually promise not to hurt him. I already told you that I won't touch him. She walked up to him, took his hand and pulled him towards me. Frank, this is Richard. Richard, this is Frank. Hello, come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee. My name is Richard, sir. I'm glad to meet you. He held out his hand for me to shake. Well, I'm sorry, but I can't shake your hand. I promised Barb that I wouldn't hurt you, and I always keep my promises. I saw him fumbling in his pocket. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, took one out, and put it in his mouth. He took out a lighter and was about to light a cigarette. Don't be a jerk, Richard. These things will kill you, and if you light a cigarette in front of me, I might have to do their job for them. It's now common practice to ask before smoking in a man's house, and I don't want to end up smelling like an ashtray. Sorry, sir. I thought everything was fine. I mean, Babs said you wouldn't mind. So Babs was wrong. What happens in this bedroom between you two is up to her, but making me passively breathe in your toxic smoke is not part of the deal. All clear? Yes, sir? Quite. With trembling hands, he put away the cigarette. As I understand it, you like cigarettes after sex. I don't understand why you smoke these things. Don't you know about the risk? Oh, yes, I know, sir, but they say that if I quit for 10 years, the risk will drop to 0. I believe that if I quit at 30, by the time I'm your age, I'll be clean. This is provided that you live that long. Now drink your coffee. What is next? Will you be able to keep her as well as she is used to? Are you planning to marry her? I thought he was going to throw coffee on me. He was so shocked by what I suggested. Seeing his predicament, Barb intervened. You know very well, we didn't even discuss this. I am your wife and always will be. It's clear. So he's just a little lover on the side, huh, Barb? Stop it, Frank. Either get back to work or we're leaving. We'll talk about this tonight. I turned back to the young man sitting at the table. Well, I see Barb is starting to worry. Barb began to fidget, shifting from foot to foot and stretching her arms. It reminded me of the times when my daughter was waiting for her first date. Maybe she's afraid of losing you, or maybe she's worried about losing her place in your little group. For the first time, I saw a hint of recognition in his eyes, as if I had just confirmed that we had met before, but he couldn't remember where. Still, it looks like I'd better get back to work and leave you lovebirds alone. I must say, sir, you are taking this very well. I don't think I could do the same. It's called love, son. I've always sworn that I would make Barb happy for the rest of her life, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Barb came over and put her arm around my neck. I really love you, you know. I didn't answer. Barb began to tug on young Dick's arm. He started to get up. Are we done yet, sir? Of course, I said. Go and have fun. He stopped when Barb dragged him away. Sir, may I light a cigarette? If Barb doesn't mind, then go ahead. The master bedroom was separated from the kitchen by a partition as thick as one cinder block. I heard them giggle as they undressed each other. I walked around, collected the last of my things, carried them to the van and put them with the others, and then returned to the house. I poured coffee on the flame on the gas stove and left. An hour later, all my things were in the new apartment, and I went grocery shopping. When I unpacked everything and put it in its place, it was almost 6. I turned on the TV just in time for the news headlines. Tonight on Points West, a house in Kings North was destroyed by a powerful explosion, the announcer said. This caught my attention. I finished watching the national news and waited for regional reports. The regional headlines were read, and then I saw this. A street very similar to the one where I lived before. As the camera moved down the street, I saw 2 houses, very similar to my neighbors' houses, and between them a pile of rubble where my small bungalow had been. Thank God I have insurance, I thought. A reporter stood in front of the camera and told her story. Around 3 o'clock this afternoon, the entire Kings North area was rocked by a powerful explosion, which shattered windows in houses throughout the area. The owners of the house, Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow, are believed to have been in bed at the time. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. A fire department officer walked into the frame, and the reporter jumped at the opportunity for an interview. So, Officer Reynolds, do we know what caused such a large explosion? Is this related to terrorism? We found no signs of explosives. Everything indicates that this was an explosive accumulation of gas. I'm afraid people don't treat him with the respect he deserves. Leave the gas valve open for a while, and all you need is an ignition source. Something as simple as turning on a light. Or lighting a cigarette, I thought. You can't say how the residents died? We'll have to wait for an autopsy for that, but it looks like it was because of the explosion. The reporter finished her story on camera, and I turned off the TV. I took out my laptop and turned it on. Barb's face looked up at me. and for the first time in years, I dissolved into tears. I stroked her face on the screen. "I'm sorry, Barb. I couldn't let him do that to you. I couldn't watch this happen to you. Sorry, Barb. I love you. And I will always love you. Please forgive me." I sat there for a little over 2 hours. The computer has already entered sleep mode. I turned it on again, launched the browser, and found the telephone number of the TV channel news office, then dialed the number. It took some time talking to minor people before getting through to those who could make the decision. "Hello?" I said. "You've just made a report from what's left of my house?" "Yes, the same one on Exeter Road. My name is Frank Bigelow, and you just told everyone I'm dead. But I must tell you that I am very much alive." I paused. "Yes, and I don't smoke. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. Listening to the next one. Listening to the next one. Listening to the next one.